La da 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 ya da dee da dee da dee dee ba do 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 ya da 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 ya da da ya da 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 ba do da 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 ya da da ya da da da. Mayday, Mayday, we have a solution. Isn't that a thing, Mayday? Like we have a problem? Isn't it some kind of universal SOS kind of trip? And if so, why? And where does that come from? And what do I mean about a solution? Well, when is Mayday? There's a question for you. May, this month that is named for Maya, the mother of Hermes. May, this month that has that root, Ma, Mar, Mary, Mater, Mother, yeah? May, this month where we celebrate Mother's Day. It's interesting that Father's Day will always land on a Sunday, the day of the sun, closest to Northern Hemisphere summer solstice, the height of the light, the glory of the king, like that, right? You see how that works. That seems rather intentional to me. It kind of feels to me that we should celebrate Mother's Day on a moon day, Monday, but that wouldn't make sense at all because we want to be home celebrating Mama. And these days, Monday is this opposite of the moon. It's the go back to your toil, go back to the factory, go back to work for at least 5 days, right? Kind of a trippy thing. Why isn't Moon Day the day where we chill? And, well, I should practice what I preach. I should take Monday off. I don't. But my partner, at least until maternity leave, has worked a pretty traditional work week, which is interesting because she works for a very untraditional company that is, these days anyway, woman owned and operated, right? So it's another thing. Like, I don't know. I work on some weekends, all that. That's not what I wanted to talk about. I am coming right now from a little Mayday training. I went to Koa's school. Koa goes to Waldorf school. And it was Special Friends Day. It's kind of grandparents and Special Friends Day. And though my hair is white enough for grandparent, I'm a special friend. I'm a stepdad-ish, right? So the partner of the mom. It's like, kind of, what do you call that thing, right? But been in the guy's life since he was 3 and now going on 9. And he's about to become a big brother. Anyway, I did not go to Waldorf school. It was pretty cool to go there. And the original thing, or the first thing that they did, and they do every day, is they try to recreate a geometry that a teacher has drawn on the board. No instructions, no judgment, no grading. Nobody's looking but themselves. But it was really beautiful. It was a circle and then a weave around it, which was actually 8-fold symmetry. It was kind of 2 4s, and that really brings our attention to Mayday, Mayday. We have a solution. And trying to recreate what I'm excited, or when he's excited, to dive into some drawing circles and drawing geometries together, and actually saw the way to, with a compass, kind of recreate imperfection and Virgo perfection. Koa and I share Virgo Venus, and he one-ups me with the Virgo moon. But anyway, to recreate that geometry with a series of circles and whatnot. But it was really cool to see. And then he showed me like handcrafts and how they're like spinning wool into string yarn, and then doing things with that on the loom. And it's very different than school when I was a kid. And then we looked at paintings that they had created. It wasn't who made the best painting. It was they all made a painting of a bird and a tree. And which painting has a bird that really pops? Which which painting looks like there's wind blowing the branches, which painting looks like a tornado, like that kind of thing. It's really fun. And then we got to see performances from each of the grades, and it was really beautiful to see, a tradition that's fostering creativity and rhythm and melody and harmony and humor. It was just such a different trip than, Scantrons and number 2 pencils, which is most of what I remember from my early programming. Anyway, there's this other thing that I thought I would share. It's a pretty interesting synchronicity. I'm teaching a class, well, in true Uranian fashion. It was going to be Sunday, but since somehow here in California, where it currently looks like this, in the Bay Area, we have one day of rain, like 100% chance of rain tomorrow on Saturday, and then Sunday is meant to be like super clear again. So Mayfair, which this school participates in every year to celebrate this changing of the season, and I'm gonna get back to that, was meant to be on Saturday, and now because tomorrow's rainy, they've moved it to Sunday, which, caused some challenge for me because I was meant to be teaching a class on Sunday, which I scheduled on Sunday instead of Saturday so I could participate as a witness in Mayfair. And now I'm going to switcheroo and give my students, my community, like this day before warning of, no, I'm moving it back to Saturday, which is just a drag. If any of you here, I'm looking at some names. Yeah, I see 2 of you, are in constellations. I'm now going to teach this activations and activators class tomorrow, Saturday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And then we'll still have a gathering on Sunday where Alyssa will offer her Taurus Astro embodiment practice, and both of these will be followed by some community discussion. So I'm actually on my way home, where I will be sending out an email to all of you who are in constellations about that change, with all the Zoom links and things, and with some apologies. But I am teaching this class about what it is to be a Uranian and a Neptunian and a Plutonian, maybe a little bit of a Chironian. I guess we'll mention an Erisian and a Haumean, a Machian and such. And so card carrying Uranian example, which means surprise before we're changing the class day. So we'll see how that swings. Of course, everything is recorded for your later review and re-review and re-review should you so choose to participate for deeper groups conversation about activations and activators, which is the transmission of the month for me in the School of Earth Astrology. If you are not in constellations and are interested in learning more about it, if you're interested in learning how you can connect your star with ours, join a constellation or one of the many constellations in constellations. Head to GeminiBrett.com/constellations, or click the community tab at GeminiBrett.com or GeminiBrett.com/links, and it will route you there, and you can learn about the School of Earth Astrology's membership group. Still offering entrance at the maiden voyage price of only $160 a year, or $16 a month, and it's amazing. I'm practicing this really great conversation on this channel on Wednesday, my storytelling hour. Check it out. We'll have an Astro Music Circle. We're going to have an Astro Tarot Circle led by Phelan Shiva. We're going to have an Astro Herbalism Circle led by Amala Hall. We're going to have a Reading Exchange Circle for folks starting out wanting to get experience with Lucian Slosh as Den Daddy for that one, so things don't get way out of control. Some really good grounded boundaries for that place, which is a necessity. I'm doing a very interesting, at least in my point of view, astronomical version of a deck and walk, where I'm helping you learn how to see. Are we live? Is this happening? I need to look at the road, but if somebody is here and would be kind enough just to leave a comment that we can hear you, maybe write Bluebird. All right, if you would. If you can hear this right now, please write Bluebird in the comments, and when it's a little safer too, I will look down, and if I see Bluebird, then we are going to continue and try to pick it up where we fell apart. You know, in Kemet, it said there was no word for death. They just called it westing, and it was known that what disappeared while resting in the west would later again rise in the east. Bluebird, Bluebird, but cutting out a little. All right, well, we should be better in just a minute. I'm kind of coming out of the trees. So, anyway, we'll see how it goes. So I wanted to talk about this idea of May Day, right? I mean, May Day is calendrically aligned into this kind of strange calendar that most of us signed up for, I guess. I don't remember being asked. It's just presented to me as how we do time, right? And, you know, interestingly, like, May 1st is happening in a different place in the seasonal expression than it did, 300 years ago? Because, of course, the Gregorian calendar, Advent, right, the kind of recalibration, because the Julian calendar was off. The Julian calendar believed that the solar year, the tropical year, was 365 and a quarter days, and it's shorter than that, right? So what happened is that Easter started slipping from the equinox, and Easter is like Passover, an equinox holiday, and I say it like that because equinox, friends, is an astronomical thing, and so is Easter and Passover. Anyway, that's a tale for another time. For now, let me just say, centuries ago, the calendar flipped from October 4th to October 14th. So celebrating Beltane, for example, on May 1st is kind of off. And, you know, that is a celebration that predates the Gregorian calendar and predates the Julian calendar. And it's one like many traditions, like the Chinese have a different tradition where they divide the 360 degree year. That's the most beautiful, balanced, symmetric, accurate calendar, friends. It's not a 365.242199 day year. It is a 360 degree year where we track the sun's dance about the earth, right? And so the tropical zodiac is the way to follow this thing. Yes, and so equinox is when the sun, at least Aries equinox, east equinox is when the sun is due east of the center of the earth, where we are all one, this place that therefore acts like a global ascendant. And in the Chinese system, where there is a solely lunar calendar, right, keeping months with the moons, with the phases of the moon, as it is in the Hebrew calendar, which was the Akkadian, which was the Babylonian, and other solely lunar calendar traditions, there are also concurrent solar calendars, Earth-Sun calendars. Like, so in the Chinese calendar, for example, they divide the 360 degrees into 24 slices of 15 degrees each. And that's why, by the way, like this year, the year of the dragon, where in a sense the new year began with the new moon, which, by the way, traditionally is not the conjunction of moon and sun, because unless eclipse, you can't see the moon at that time. But the day after, sometimes too, when the moon is first seen, reborn, the young moon, the sliver crescent smile, Diana's bow, which we find in the sunset west, that smile of celebration of moon's survival of her monthly trial by fire. All right. So anyway, though the new moon was February 10th, the cutoff date, if you will, for when the dragon year begins was February 4th, because that's aligned to the solar or the Earth-Sun calendar, which divides the 360-degree count or dance into 24 slices of 15 degrees each. And it's that one this year on February 4th in Beijing where the sun was at that place between solstice and equinox degrees that we tropical astrologers call 15 Aquarius. And many associate that cross quarter with Candlemas or Imbolc. And these days, typically, that's a celebration on February 1st because there's this wish to realign it to the Gregorian calendar. More like a subconscious, not decision. Somebody's deciding on these things, right? And so typically, May Day is celebrated on May 1st, and Beltane as well, right? But it's not like this was the old tradition, right? The cross quarter here between the east equinox and the northstice, the time when the sun is most north of Earth's equator, and that these days we call summer solstice, right? Well, in the northern hemisphere, of course, this is winter solstice in the southern hemisphere. So we can call this June solstice, but a much more global term that's calendar independent would be north solstice, because it is at that time when the sun is furthest north, at the northern bounds of the zodiac, which is the Tropic of Cancer, closest to the northern hemisphere experience, furthest from the southern hemisphere experience. Summer in the north, winter in the south, yeah? So here we are at this time, halfway in between equinox and solstice, and therefore the middle of spring, middle of autumn for my friends south of the equator. But there was a time when this actually was the beginning of summer. And what is this? May 1st? No, probably the sun at 15 degrees tropical Taurus. Not constellational bull, nothing to do with Ophiuchus at all, okay? 15 degrees tropical Taurus, the Earth's zodiac, the directional zodiac, tied to Earth's pole, which certainly is what the kids are celebrating when they weave their beautiful ribbons about the maypole. Now, some might say that's a very different kind of pole, because for those of us north of the equator, where this is very much the essence of spring, let's see the flowers here in my neighbor's front yard. It's a fertility festival, right? So what kind of pole might that be? Anyway, I see the world's axis, the spine of Gaia, the sword of our stone. Yeah, in that maypole happening. So for those of you who are in constellations, I'm just about to send you an email apologizing for this very late in the game switcheroo, which is really my, I don't know, I was switched, so I'm switching. But I really, especially at this time with our baby girl coming in super soon, need to help Koa daily know that he is just as important as his sister. And of course, that's going to be tricky when baby's going to demand so much attention, right? But, Koa's not my son, and the baby will be my daughter. and I wish to make zero distinction in the love that I have to offer, right? And so I need to really lead by example, and even before baby is born, and that means go celebrate the maypole. Also, I want to be there for mama and for baby in the celebration of flower crowns and the beginning of summer. Well, that's not what they're going to call it at all. And, it makes a lot of sense for us to align the beginning of our seasons with the cardinal directions, by the way, cardinal signs, like equinox and solstice, as we do. But if you know your Shakespeare, summer solstice with midsummer's nights, right? So there's another way that we can play, which is when we divide the circle in eights. And I love that was the geometry that was on the board when we got to practice at Waldorf School this morning. Eightfold, an eight weave about the circle. So equinoxes, solstices, the cardinal directions. Sun ingressing Capricorn is when sun is south of Earth, or south pole, leaning towards the sun. Sun into cardinal Aries, the cardinal direction east. Zero tropical Aries, not constellational Aries, not that Ophiuchus thing, is due east of the center of Earth, where we are all one, and therefore works like a global ascendant. Earth's north pole always leans towards zero Cancer. So when that Earth's pole in our annual orbit points to the sun in that way, this is northstice, yeah, Cancer solstice. And then when sun ingresses tropical Libra, crossing the equator southward, this is the sun due west of the center of Earth, which is why the Libra glyph looks like the setting sun, my friends. And in between these points, we have cross quarters. Interestingly, the days of the seasons, if we go equinox to solstice and solstice to equinox, or cross quarter to cross quarter, like 15 Taurus to 15 Leo, and 15 Leo to 15 Scorpio, and 15 Scorpio to 15 Aquarius, and 15 Aquarius to 15 Taurus, which, by the way, like the Chinese solar stations do, they begin spring with sun, where Western astrology considers the sun at 15 tropical Aquarius, between the solstice and the east equinox, okay? And it's like, wait, that's crazy, because this is the coldest time of the year, but it's actually the end of the cold, right? And then the east equinox is the middle of the northern hemisphere spring in that system. And now at Beltane, we're shifting from spring to summer. And this is the beginning of summer in this old system, where, and still used by some, where the northstice, the summer solstice, is the middle of summer, and then sun at 15 Leo between that solstice and equinox would be the end of summer and the beginning of fall. Sun is actually starting to fall from its highest height at the summer solstice, yeah? You really get evidence of that, though, when the sun's at 15 Leo. So anyway, part of my adventure is, well, how can we tell, right? If I'm not counting days. And again, that's tricky, because since Earth's orbit of the sun is not a circle, but rather an ellipse, as all orbits are, the seasons are not equal days. Look into it, right? Earth is closest to the sun in January, and that means we're moving faster. From our point of view, sun's moving fastest through our zodiac, and therefore the time it takes for sun to get from, let's say the west equinox to the equinox, east equinox, okay, from zero Libra to zero Aries is much shorter. Okay, a little bit shorter. And then from zero Aries to zero Libra, look into it. It's an intriguing thing. So you can't do this just by counting days, unless you know the difference of the seasons. You do this by witnessing degrees, but that's hard to do when the sun will blind you when you try. So there's a lot of ways to play this game with shadow lengths and where the sun is rising and where the sun is setting. But even then, the cross quarters are not between equinoxes and solstices visibly. So it's a very tricky thing to do. And so why not just call it May 1st? Well, I'd rather, since, we have the math, we have the charts, go with sun at 15 degrees Taurus, or maybe the time in between, or maybe even longer, Seasons don't change in a moment, friends. Yes, so math is a beautiful thing, but don't lose your nature to your calculations. Moral of the story. All right, friends, if you're in constellations, I hope to see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow, Saturday, May 4th, for an activations and activators class. By the way, in my typical insomnia this morning for the class, I was researching Mary Carey and the discovery of uranium and then plutonium. And then today at this school event, I met a grandfather who, like me, grew up in a kind of nuclear scene. So more on that in class tomorrow. If you want to learn more about constellations, GeminiBrett.com, constellations. Come on in, at least for a month. Give it a go. Align with stars like you. See you in space, friends.